Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Today I'm going to explain about connectives that express cause and effect, contrast and condition. You can see this material in Understanding and Using English Grammar, written by Patty Azhar, page 385 up to 411. In the previous video, I have already explained about adverb clauses and also how to reduce adverb clauses to modifying adverbial phrases. At this time, I'm going to explain the next material about connectives, expressing cause and effect, contrast and condition. Using because of and due to. In the adverb clause, we use because. Because is a subordinate conjunction. So after because, we must have a subject and a verb. And the sentence or the clause that is attached to because is a subclause. Have a look at the example. Because the weather was cold, we stayed home. After because, we have a subject, the weather. We have a subject, the weather, and the verb was. The weather was cold is a subclause, while we stayed home is a main clause. And we have a comma here because the subclause comes in the beginning of a sentence, so you must use a comma between subclause and main clause. Now we move to because of and due to. Because of and due to are phrasal prepositions. Why phrasal? Because it consists of more than one word. Because and of, due and to. Of is a preposition and it follows because, so because of is a phrasal preposition. To is also a preposition. Before to there is due. Due to is a phrasal preposition. They are followed by a noun object. Because they are preposition, especially phrasal preposition, they must be followed by a noun object. Have a look at the example. Because of the cold weather, we stayed home. We have because of. Because of is phrasal preposition. After the phrasal preposition, we have the object of a preposition. Because of the cold weather, we stayed home. The cold weather is a noun phrase. Function as the object of a preposition because of. A phrasal preposition, I mean. And then we stayed home. So after because of, there is no subject, no verb. Only a noun phrase that function as noun object. Object of a preposition. Due to the cold weather, we stayed home. In this case, the cold weather is also a noun phrase that function as the object of a preposition. The object of a phrasal preposition due to. Remember, after because of and due to, there is no clause but phrase. I believe that you have already been familiar with clause and phrase. Clause again consists of at least one subject and one verb, like in this example. And for phrase, there is no subject, no verb, but we can find a noun and modifiers. This can be a noun phrase functioning as the object of a preposition because of. Then the next one, due to the fact that. Sometimes, usually in more formal writing, due to is followed by a noun clause introduced by the fact that. In the previous example, due to, and at this time we have due to the fact that. In this point, we have due to the fact that. For the previous example, after due to, there is a noun phrase functioning as the object of a preposition, the object of a phrasal preposition due to, and in point D, we have due to the fact that the weather was cold, we stayed home. There is an additional word, the fact that. The fact that introduces adverb clause. So after due to the fact that must be a clause consisting of at least a subject and a verb. So after due to the fact that, it must be a clause that is adverb clause. Okay, then the next example about the placement of because of and due to, and also due to the fact that. Have a look at point E. We stayed home because of the cold weather. Because of the cold weather comes after we stayed home, so there is no comma needed. It is different from the previous example because of the cold weather, comma, we stayed home. So comma is between the first and the second. The first is about phrasal preposition. Because the phrasal preposition comes in the beginning of a sentence, we need a comma between this phrasal preposition and the sentence. For point E, the phrasal preposition comes after the sentence, so there is no comma needed. It is like the second example, we stayed home due to the cold weather. There is no comma between we stayed home and phrasal preposition due to the cold weather. But for the previous example, due to the cold weather, we can find a comma between phrasal preposition and the sentence. But if the phrasal prepositions come after the sentence, no comma needed. And then the next one, we stayed home due to the fact that the weather was cold. Due to the fact that, in this case, it introduces a verb clause, the weather was cold. When due to the fact that blah blah comes after the main clause, no comma needed. So there is no comma. But if due to the fact that comes in the beginning of sentence, we still need a comma between the verb clause and the main clause. Okay, next, using transitions to show cause and effect, therefore and consequently. Have a look at the example. A, B, and C have the same meaning. Therefore and consequently mean as a result. In grammar, they are called transition or conjunctive adverbs. Transitions connect the ideas between two sentences. Have a look at example A. Al failed the test because he didn't study. In example A, we can find because, and after because, we can find subject and verb. Because he didn't study is a subclause. So this is another clause. And then the next one, Al didn't study, full stop, therefore, comma, he failed the test. Don't forget to use capital letter for T. Therefore, the first letter of therefore. Al didn't study, full stop, consequently, he failed the test. Those three are the same in terms of meaning, but different in structure. The first one, this sentence uses a verb clause. For the second one, the sentence uses therefore, a conjunctive adverb. And the last one, the sentence also uses conjunctive adverb, consequently, that is actually the same as therefore. So there are three ways of expressing because, expressing a cause and effect relationship within the sentence. A transition occurs in the second of two related sentences. Notice the patterns and punctuation in the example. Al didn't study, full stop, therefore, he failed the test. Al didn't study, full stop, he, comma, therefore, comma, failed the test. Al didn't study, full stop, he failed the test, comma, therefore. There are three ways of using therefore in a sentence. The first one, the first sentence, and then full stop, capital letter for T, therefore, comma. Don't forget to use comma to separate between transition and the sentence. He failed the test, full stop. Al didn't study, full stop, he, comma, therefore, comma, failed the test. So in this case, therefore comes after the subject, and don't forget to use comma before and after therefore to separate transition and a sentence. And then the next one, didn't study, he failed the test, comma, therefore. In this case, therefore is placed at the end of the sentence. Don't forget to use comma before therefore, and then full stop. Positions of transition, the first one, transition, and then plus subject and verb. Don't forget to use comma after transition, plus the rest of the sentence. Subject plus transition plus verb plus the rest of the sentence. Before and after transition must be commas. Subject and verb and rest of the sentence, don't forget to use comma before transition and then full stop. The next example, compare. A transition, example therefore, has several possible positions within the second sentence of the pair, as in point D, E, and F. A conjunction, like so, has only one possible position between the two sentences, so cannot move around in the second sentence as therefore can. So cannot move around to other places. This is the only place for so. Before so, you must use a comma. But for therefore, there are three positions. Don't forget to give a comma before so. Have a look at the asterisk. A semicolon is also possible in this situation. In this case, you may use semicolon instead of a full stop or a period. If you use period, you must use capital letter. If you use semicolon, you do not need to use capital letter, just small letter. To express cause and effect relationship, there are many ways to make it. The first one, you may use adverb clause like because it was hot we went swimming. Comma is in the middle of the first in the sentence. Comma is put between the subclause and the main clause because the subclause comes in the beginning. We went swimming because it was hot, because the subclause comes after the main clause, so there is no comma. This is the punctuation of adverb clause. And then beside, you can also use preposition to show cause and effect relationship, like because of. Because of is a phrasal preposition. After this phrasal preposition, you may use a noun phrase functioning as noun object or object of a preposition. Because of the hot weather, comma, we went swimming. Comma is placed in the beginning of a phrasal preposition and the sentence, the rest of the sentence. And for the second example, there is no comma because phrasal preposition comes after the sentence. We went swimming because of the hot weather. Remember, after because of, you do not need to use any subject and verb, but you must use noun phrase functioning as object of a preposition, object of a phrasal preposition. This is the punctuation of preposition. If the preposition comes in the beginning, you must use a comma after the phrasal preposition. If the phrasal preposition comes after the sentence, there is no comma needed. And then the next way to express cause and effect is by using transition. Like, it was hot, therefore we went swimming. It was hot, we therefore went swimming. It was hot, we went swimming, therefore. There are three ways of placing the transition in a sentence. The first one, you may use after the first sentence, full stop, and then therefore. Don't forget to use capital letter if you use full stop, and then comma, we went swimming. It was hot, full stop, and then we, subject, comma, therefore, comma, went swimming. It was hot, the first sentence, full stop, we went swimming. Don't forget to use capital letter for we, and capital letter for the first word of we went swimming, comma, therefore, full stop. There are three ways of placing therefore in a sentence. A transition is used with the second sentence of a pair. So for the first and the second sentence, there is a relationship. Therefore is used with the second sentence of a pair. There is the first, the second, so therefore with the second. It shows the relationship of the second idea to the first idea. A transition is movable within the second sentence. So it can be moved, the first word of the second sentence, the second word after the subject, or the last word. Punctuation, a period is used between the two independent clauses. A comma may not be used to separate the clauses. Commas are usually used to set the transition off from the rest of the sentence. So you may not use a comma in this place. You may use a period or a full stop or semicolon. If you use a period or full stop, you must use capital T. If you use a semicolon, you may use small t. Have a look at the asterisk for the use of semicolon. A semicolon may be used instead of period between the two independent clauses. So the semicolon is frequently used instead of period or full stop. It was hot, semicolon, therefore we went swimming. For therefore, the first letter is not capital but small because we have semicolon, not period. It was hot, semicolon, we, comma, therefore, comma, went swimming. Don't forget to use small w for we because before we there is a semicolon. It was hot, semicolon, we went swimming, comma, therefore, full stop. Don't forget to use small w because before we have semicolon. In general, a semicolon can be used instead of a period between any two sentences that are closely related in meaning. Peanuts are not nuts, they are beans, so they are closely related in meaning. Notice that a small letter, not a capital letter, immediately follows a semicolon. Yeah, remember that. After the semicolon, you must have a small letter, not a capital letter. Next slide. Other ways of expressing cause and effect by using such blah blah that and so blah blah that. Example A, B, and C have the same meaning. Because the weather was nice, we went to the zoo. The first example uses because, so it is constituted as an adverb clause. After because, we have a subclause, the weather was nice, comma, because the subclause comes in the beginning, we must use comma after the subclause. We went to the zoo is the main clause. The next example, it was such nice weather that we went to the zoo. It was such nice weather that we went to the zoo. In this example, we have such. After the word such, we have nice weather. Nice weather is a noun phrase consisting of a noun weather and modifier nice. Such nice weather that we went to the zoo. And then the third example, the weather was so nice that we went to the zoo. After so, we have an adjective. So nice that we went to the zoo. After such, we have a noun phrase, and then that introduces adverb clauses. Such nice weather, and then plus that. In this case, that introduces adverb clause. The weather was so nice that we went to the zoo. After so, we have an adjective, and then it is followed by that, which introduces adverb clause. So from this example, we have more additional structures to express cause and effect by using subordinating conjunction because, or by using such blah blah that, or so blah blah that. After the word such, we have noun phrase, and then that. After so, we have an adjective, and then that. Okay, the next example, such blah blah that encloses a modified noun, such plus adjective plus noun plus that. After such, we have a noun phrase, good coffee. Coffee as a noun, good as a modifier, and then that. That in this case introduces an adverb clause. I had another cup. It was such good coffee that I had another cup. It was such a foggy day that we couldn't see the road. After such, we have a noun phrase, foggy day, day as a noun, and then a foggy as modifiers. That introduces adverb clause, an adverb clause, we couldn't see the road. Have a look at the sentences. Before the noun phrase, for example E, we can find a determiner a foggy day. But for the previous example, in point D, we have no determiner. Why? Because coffee is uncountable noun, while day is countable noun. So, uncountable noun cannot be preceded by determiner a, while countable noun can be preceded by determiner a foggy day. Just the same as the previous example in point B, such nice weather. There is no determiner because weather is uncountable noun. And then we come to so. The coffee is so hot that I cannot drink it. After so, we can find an adjective hot. I'm so hungry that I could eat a horse. I am so hungry that I could eat a horse. After so, we can find an adjective hungry. Remember, after the word so, you must have an adjective. And then the next example, she speaks so fast that I cannot understand her. He walked so quickly that I couldn't keep up with him. For these examples, we can use adverb after so. So fast, fast is an adverb. So quickly, quickly is also an adverb. After so, you may have an adjective or an adverb. And then after those adjectives or adverbs, we must have that, which introduces adverb clause. She speaks so fast that I cannot understand her. So in this case, I cannot understand her is a subclause. And the next example, so blah blah that is used with many, few, much, and little. She made so many mistakes that she failed the exam. After so, we have many mistakes. Mistake is a noun, and then many is determiner. So in this case, it is considered as also noun phrase. So there is no difference between such. After such, you can also use noun phrase. But for many, few, much, and little are commonly used after so. He has so few friends that he is always lonely. Few friends. Friends is a noun, few is a determiner. Few modifies friend, so it is a noun phrase. After so, we can have a noun phrase beginning with few. She has so much money that she can buy whatever she wants. Money is a noun, much is a determiner which modifies money. So plus noun phrase beginning with much. He had so little trouble with the test that he left 20 minutes early. Trouble is a noun modified by little. So little trouble is a noun phrase beginning with little. So from this example, we can draw a conclusion that so can be used in a sentence with a noun phrase. Noun phrase beginning with many, few, much, and little. Okay, the next example. It was such a good book that I couldn't put it down. I was so hungry that I didn't wait for dinner to eat something. Sometimes, primarily in speaking, that is omitted. So in this case, that can be omitted. It was such a good book. It was such a good book. I couldn't put it down. I was so hungry. I didn't wait for dinner to eat something. So that in this case, which introduces other causes, can be dropped. Expressing purpose using so that. I turned off the TV in order to enable my roommate to study in peace and quiet. In order to express his purpose, I turned off the TV for a purpose. The purpose was to make it possible for my roommate to study in peace and quiet. I turned off the TV so that my roommate could study in peace and quiet. So that also expresses purpose. It expresses the same meaning as in order to. The word that is often omitted, especially in speaking. In order to is the same as so that. Have a look at the asterisk. In order that has the same meaning as so that, but is less commonly used. Example, I turned off the TV in order that my roommate could study in peace and quiet. So, in order that is less commonly used. Both so that and in order that introduce adverb clauses. It is unusual but possible to put these adverb clauses at the beginning of a sentence so that my roommate could study in peace and quiet. I turned off the TV. So that can be placed in the beginning of a sentence. So that plus can or could. I am going to cash a check so that I can buy my textbooks. I cashed a check so that I could buy my textbooks. So that is often used instead of in order to when the idea of ability is being expressed. The idea of ability is like I can buy my textbooks. Idea of ability. Can is used in the adverb clause for a present or future meaning, so that I can buy in order to be able to buy. Could is used after so that in past sentences. Okay. Also possible but less common. Have a look at double asterisk. Also possible but less common. The use of may or might in place of can or could. I cast a check so that I might buy my textbook. In this case, can is used for present or future meaning, while could is used for past meaning, as the same as may and might. So that plus will or simple present or would. In point E, so that I won't get wet in order is the same as in order to make sure that I won't get wet. I will take my umbrella so that I won't get wet. It's the same as in order to make sure that I won't get wet. F, I will take my umbrella so that I do not get wet. It is sometimes possible to use the simple present after so that in place of will. The simple present expresses a future meaning. In this case, simple present, even though it is a simple present, but actually this simple present expresses future meaning. This activity happens in the future. Yesterday I took my umbrella so that I wouldn't get wet. Would is used in past sentences, as in G. So I wouldn't get wet happened in the past, showing contrast or unexpected result. All these sentences have the same meaning. The idea of cold weather is contrasted with the idea of going swimming. Usually the weather is cold, one does not go swimming, so going swimming in cold weather is unexpected result. It is surprising that the speaker went swimming in cold weather. So the idea of contrast is the idea of contrast in this case, if the weather is cold, someone does not go swimming. But if someone still goes swimming, it is very surprising. That is the idea of contrast. The surprising moment is unexpected result. Have a look at the ways to show contrast. The first one, by using adverb clauses like even though, although, and though. Don't forget to give a space between even and though. Even though it was cold, I went swimming. Although it was cold, I went swimming. Though it was cold, I went swimming. So it is very surprising when the weather is cold, I still go swimming. That's why it is contrast. How to express the contrast event? By using adverb clauses like even though, although, and though. Don't forget to give a space between even and though. The second way of showing contrast or unexpected result is by using conjunction. But blah blah anyway, but blah blah still, yet blah blah still. Have a look at the example. It was cold, but don't forget to use comma in this case, because these conjunctions are called as coordinating conjunction. Before those coordinating conjunction must be preceded by comma. It was cold, comma, but I went swimming anyway. It was cold, comma, but I still went swimming. It was cold, comma, yet I still went swimming. These kind of sentences are the same in meaning, that is showing contrast or unexpected result. And then the next way, by using transition. The transitions that are used like nevertheless, nonetheless, however, blah blah still. Nevertheless, example, it was cold, nevertheless, I went swimming. The second example, nonetheless, it was cold, nonetheless, I went swimming. And then the next example, the next transition that is used in showing contrast, however, blah blah still. The next example shows contrast, however, blah blah still. It was cold, however, I still went swimming. Don't forget the punctuation of transition. The first one, you may use after the first sentence, full stop, and then nevertheless, so the transition and then comma. And for nevertheless must be in the capital letter, because before nevertheless there is a period. Don't forget to use comma after nevertheless, and then the rest of the sentence, subject and verb. The second sentence, it was cold, semicolon, nonetheless, comma, I went swimming. If you use semicolon, use small n, nonetheless. Why? Because there is a semicolon before nonetheless. It was cold, however, I still went swimming. However, comma, I still went swimming. This is as the first example. And the next one, by using preposition, despite, in spite of, despite the fact that, in spite of the fact that, despite the fact that, in spite of the fact that. Have a look at the example. I went swimming despite the cold weather. I went swimming in spite of the cold weather. For despite and in spite of, those two are prepositions, so after those two must be in the form of noun object or object of the preposition. And for despite the fact that, I went swimming despite the fact that the weather was cold. The fact that blah 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 introduces I have a clause, so after despite the fact that must be a clause consisting of a subject and a verb. I went swimming in spite of the fact that the weather was cold. In spite of the fact that, after in spite of the fact that must be a subject and a verb, because the fact that blah blah introduces I have a clause, so after in spite of the fact that must be in the form of clause consisting of at least one subject and one verb. Now we come to showing direct contrast. Direct can be pronounced by direct or direct. Those two are correct pronunciation. Showing, but I prefer to use direct contrast. Showing direct contrast, all of the sentences have the same meaning. Have a look at the example. To show direct contrast, you may use adverb clauses, conjunction, and transition. For adverb clauses, there are while and whereas. While Mary is rich, while John is poor. John is poor, while Mary is rich. Have a look at the commas. Even though the subclause comes after the main clause, in this case, you still need a comma before the subclause. Why? Because it is an exception. For showing direct contrast, you must use a comma even though the subclause comes after the main clause. Then Mary is rich, whereas John is poor. Comma is needed before subclause. Whereas Mary is rich, comma, John is poor. The subclause comes in the beginning, so you still need a comma. You need a comma because the subclause comes in the beginning of the sentence. Because the subclause comes in the beginning of a sentence. When the subclause comes after the main clause, you still need a comma. Why? Because it is an exception. And then you may use conjunction like but. Mary is rich, comma, but John is poor. John is poor, comma, but Mary is rich. Why comma? Because before fanboys, you must use comma. Fanboys for, and, nor, but, or, yet, and so. But is constituted as fanboys, coordinating conjunction. Before those fanboys, you must use a comma, like Mary is rich, comma, but John is poor. John is poor, comma, but Mary is rich. And then we come to the next way of showing direct contrast, that is by using transition. However, on the other hand, Mary is rich, semicolon. However, comma, John is poor. Don't forget to use a small letter because before however you can find a semicolon. John is poor, semicolon, Mary is rich. However, we have semicolon here, but Mary is proper name, the name of a person, so it's still in the form of a capital letter. And then however in this case is placed at the end of the sentence, comma, and then however, and then full stop. Mary is rich, John on the other hand is poor. You may use period or full stop, but because this is proper noun, you must use a capital letter. Even though it is not a proper noun, after a full stop, you must use John on the other hand, comma, on the other hand is poor. John is poor, full stop, Mary, comma, on the other hand is rich. Don't forget to use a comma before and after on the other hand because it comes after the subjects. Expressing conditions using otherwise and or else. We come to expressing condition. I have a clause. If I don't eat breakfast, I get hungry. If I don't eat breakfast, I get hungry. Yeah, comma is used between subclause and main clause because the subclause comes in the beginning of a sentence. You will be late if you do not hurry. If you do not hurry is a subclause comes after the main clause. A subclause comes after the main clause. If the subclause, in this case, if you don't hurry comes after the main clause, you do not need to use any comma. You will get wet unless you take your umbrella. Unless means if not. So you will get wet if you do not take your umbrella. If not is the same as unless. If and unless that condition that produce certain result. Okay, this is several clauses for expressing condition by using if and unless. We come to transition. I always eat breakfast, otherwise I get hungry during class. I always eat breakfast, full stop, otherwise capital letter O because we have full stop before, otherwise, and then comma, I get hungry during class. Otherwise expresses the idea if the opposite is true, then there will be a certain result. So I always eat breakfast, otherwise I get hungry during class. Means that if I do not eat breakfast, I get hungry during class. If the opposite of the first sentence, I do not eat breakfast, the next the certain result will happen. I get hungry during class. You would better hurry, otherwise you will be late. Otherwise in this case, if you would not hurry, you will be late. If the opposite of the first sentence is true, there will be a certain result. You will be late. Take your umbrella, otherwise you will get wet. If you do not take your umbrella, you will get wet. You do not take your umbrella, you will get wet. Okay, otherwise means that if the opposite situation of the first sentence is true, so there is a certain result. Now we come to conjunction. We can use or else for conjunction. Or else and otherwise have the same meaning. I always eat breakfast or else I get hungry during class. So in this case, or function as the consequence. If I do not eat breakfast, I get hungry during class. You would better hurry or else you will be late. Take your umbrella or else you will get wet. These are the example of using or else in a sentence. Or else and otherwise have the same meaning. If the opposite condition of the first sentence is true, there will be a certain consequence. Summary of connectives: cause and effect, contrast and condition. For cause and effect, you may use because, since, now that, so that. Yeah, for adverb clauses. For transition, you may use therefore and consequently. For conjunction, so and for. For preposition, because of and due to. For expressing contrast, in adverb clause, you may use even though, although, though, whereas, and while. For transition, you may use however, nevertheless, nonetheless, on the other hand. For conjunction, you may use but, blah blah, anyway, yet, blah blah, still. Anyway and still are in a bracket, meaning that those are optional. You may use it, you may drop it. For preposition, you may use despite, in spite of. After despite and in spite of must be object of a preposition or noun object. Condition. To express condition for adverb clause, you may use if, unless, only if, even if, whether or not, in case, in the event that. For transition, you may use otherwise. For conjunction, you may use or else. Okay, thank you. That's it, my explanation about connectives. Please wait for the next video. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.